What's up, rich girls and boys? Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to tell you the 3 most impactful negotiation tactics I've learned from more seasoned professionals in the last few years of building my business and negotiating different deals. Had I known these tips and tricks a few years ago, I probably would have a lot more money than I do now. We're going to break down 3. The first is called the Zendaya Playbook. The second is your number, my terms. And the third is tiered pricing with a floor. Now, I am not a negotiation expert, but I have been in several unique situations in the past few years with people who really know what they're doing, and these are some of the most interesting tactics I've seen and even tried myself. So let's get into it. Zendaya, the star of Max's show Euphoria, is one of the only actresses in the streaming era who has successfully negotiated compensation that rivals the stars of the cable era. GQ reported that she negotiated a rate of $1 million per episode for Euphoria Season 3, which is the hit HBO Max drama of which she is the lead and an executive producer. For context, one of the most popular supporting actresses on the show, Sydney Sweeney, earned about $25,000 per episode for her role as Cassie Howard in Season 2. So this is a humongous contract for Zendaya, which is why she is my inspiration for this 2-part strategy. First, your track record is your leverage. Zendaya won Emmys for seasons 1 and 2 of Euphoria. You really can't make the show without her, and she has highly visible work in other major franchises. So you know when she sat down at the table to make this deal, she used those Emmys as a paperweight for their first offer. And while most of us don't have the professional equivalent in our fields of an Emmy, that does not mean you can't leverage your own track record in the same way. At a high level, this can mean where you have prior work experience, the places you've worked, and what you did for those businesses, or how quickly you've grown revenue, cut costs, or sharpened division for your current organization, and it's very handy to have numbers. Ideally, though, this half of the strategy proves how your work is value additive, how it increases revenue. This can also be effective in situations where you're trying to negotiate someone else down. For example, when you're fighting a rent increase. It can be useful to highlight your history, your track record, and say, hey, I've lived here for 2 years, I've paid in full every single time for 24 months straight, I have never caused any damage to the unit, etc. The second part of the Zendaya-inspired playbook is providing a multifaceted skill set. So Zendaya is the lead on Euphoria. She's also an executive producer on the show, which means you effectively have 2 large bargaining chips with which to negotiate your worth. So sure, she might be doing more work than the other actors, but she also gets to exert more creative control, and it might even remove the need for another hire. Whether or not her executive producer credit is just a vanity credit remains to be seen, but importantly, it still offers a clue for the rest of us about how we can structure our own deals. So when you are offering additional skill sets, especially those that might actually replace the need for an additional hire, that can be a huge bargaining chip as long as the workload is still manageable for you. It'd be like if all-in-one body wash, shampoo, conditioner, shave gels were like actually good. You'd probably be willing to pay more for one product that did everything rather than buying 4 separate products that all required health insurance. This half of the strategy is more concerned with how you're actually a great deal. You're painting yourself as this bargain because you're saving them money. The second strategy is known as your number, my terms. And this strategy is best reserved for situations wherein you've already been at the negotiating table for a little while, and it's become clear that for whatever reason, the upfront number being offered leaves something to be desired. This is also a 2-part strategy. So number 1, you're basically accepting the number that they're willing to pay you, but you're negotiating terms that are more favorable to you that specify how that work is going to get done. So if you're an employee of someone else, this could mean negotiating additional vacation time, more flexible scheduling, or the promise to revisit the number after a certain amount of time if certain expectations are met. Now, if you're a business owner or you are otherwise striking a deal with someone else, it might mean that in order for you to accept their number, you then get to gain access to something else of value. Maybe it's an email list, it's a marketing platform, or something that can help you in other ways. The second piece of your number, my terms is finding ways to build in upside. So maybe the upfront number on the table that someone is willing to concede is not ideal right now, but you want to capture the value of your work if the project is ultimately successful. Maybe you are a copywriter who helps people with their email marketing and sales landing pages. If a client that you really want to work with can't pay your upfront hourly rate or fee, you might consider negotiating a cut of all future revenue that's generated by the sales funnels you create negotiate for them. This is a risky bet in the sense that 20% of $0 is still $0, but if you believe both in what they are building and in your ability to help them, it can be the most lucrative pricing structure in the long term. And finally, we have a tiered pricing with a floor offer. So this is a creative way to structure a deal where a high value project is at stake, but each player's contributions will be different. So a tiered model can ensure a few things. Number one, that your floor never drops below a certain point. For example, maybe you're negotiating with a partner for a new venture for which you're both going to provide something that the other needs to make it successful. You can structure it such that the payout amounts are contingent upon the outcome. For example, maybe you and I are partnering to create a podcasting agency, and I'm going to be the operational leader who runs the day-to-day, and you're going to be the business development driver. So maybe I negotiate that if annual revenue is $250,000 or less, we'll split it 70% me, 30% you, with a $70,000 floor for me, because at any number lower than $70K, I've decided my operational involvement day-to-day does not make sense. For example, in this case, if revenue were $85K, I would get $70K and you'd get 15, despite the 70-30. But since I'm relying on you for biz dev referrals, and those will have a major impact on long-term growth, I want you to be incentivized to drive a ton of new business. So maybe we decide that if the total outcome is more than $500,000, we're now going to split it 50-50, and anything between $250 and $500 is 60-40. The point is, the more revenue we make, the higher your split goes, because while the ops are on me, the new business will mostly be driven by you, and I want to make sure you are incentivized to do your part. That's just an example, but earnout tiers work really well when the people involved are responsible for different parts of the business's or the deal's success, and it's unclear how successful something is going to be, and the pricing floor ensures that you are not agreeing to involvement in something that's going to end up being more trouble than it's worth. I want to hear your favorite negotiation tactics, so send me an email at katie@moneywithkatie.com or comment on this video.